It was never about the land. It was never about the land. It was never about the two-state solution. It was never about living side by side with Israel. It was about killing Jews to go to heaven. Those who tell you otherwise, they don't know their ideology. Ask someone who knows it very well. Ask someone who defeated that ideology. Good afternoon, everyone. A real honor and privilege to be here in Estonia for the first time, by the way. For the first time in this region. I was in Riga, and now in Estonia, and then tomorrow I'm going to Brussels, inshallah, to complete this this noble mission, I would say. But first, let's just celebrate victory. I believe that we are in a great moment where we celebrate victory. Why I'm saying this? Because inshallah today or tonight, time zones difference, okay? Tonight, inshallah, we will celebrate the release of the 20 hostages. The 20 hostages that were kept by Hamas in the dungeons of Gaza. 20 hostages that really sparked this ugly war that we witnessed for the past 20 years. 20 hostages will be back home, and it's a real victory. And I want to say one thing. It's a victory not only for the people of Israel, but also it's a victory for the people of Gaza, for the innocents who were dragged into this war against their will. Because I do believe that there are so many innocents in Gaza, and there are many victims of hate that they were indoctrinated with. And today I just want to give you some hope, because this is the most what we need. Hope in the Middle East. And I'm so sure that what I'm about to tell you will give you hope to have a better vision for what the Middle East should look like, inshallah, in the future. When I said victory, I remembered one quote that Winston Churchill, my favorite public speaker, he's a great public speaker, I have to admit. Winston Churchill, when he speaks, you have to listen. In his first speech that he said as the Prime Minister in the House of Commons, he said, "Victory, however long and hard the road may be, for without victory there is no survival." I believe Israel was engaged in a war for the past 2 years for its survival. I know many might argue with how Israel did it, lots of PR damage, but it was a necessary war, a war for its own survival. And inshallah, we will celebrate the great victory today by releasing the hostages, the final 20 living hostages, and the war will be officially ended. No more wars, inshallah. No more resumption of war. So before I dig in talking about Trump's plan and how I see the Middle East and what is my view, I want to answer a very important question that you might have in mind. Excuse me, Mr. Al Shareef, why should we listen to you? Why should we listen to you? What is your credibility? Well, here is the tough answer. You see how hard I preach against the radical Islamists and the radical ideology of Hamas and those who hate Jews and who hate Israel. I was once in their shoes. I used to have, or I used to hold the same beliefs they hold today, but when I was a teenager. I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia to a mixed family, Saudi Egyptian, and all of my life I lived in Saudi. And I memorized the whole Quran at the age of 17. I went to a school, we call it in Saudi, tahfidh, madaris al-tahfidh, the schools of memorizing the Quran, 114 chapters. I memorized it in a very short, I have a great memory, thank God. I'm using it for the good, but I was very well indoctrinated with hate. Hate against Jews, and then Christians, to make the Jews feel better. It comes Jews first, and then Christians. And then third, you have the polytheists, the atheists, And I was so sincere in this hate. You know why I was so sincere? Because I believe this is what God wants you to do. He wants you to hate Jews for the sake of God, for the sake of Allah. And then he wants you to hate Christians also for the sake of God. I believe I was so sincere and honest in trying to search for God. That was the case until 2010. I was 27. I was nominated for an exchange program to study French in Paris. And I went to Paris and studied French. And I signed up for something called a homestay program, a program where you stay with a family to improve your language experience. And that family, by pure coincidence, was Jewish. And I never knew that. I knew exactly that they were Jewish when I entered their house. In the living room, there was a big artwork of Hamagen David, the Star of David. I was about to scream. I had all the traumas in my head of the Egyptian TV shows of Ra'fat al-Hajjan and A Night Without a Horse, which is a great Egyptian TV show, by the way, one of my favorites, that took part of history and blended with lots of fiction. The part of history that it took was that the English invaded Egypt, right? No? You don't know the true story. The English invaded Egypt because of the Zionists. It's part of the protocols of the elders of Zion to control Arab lands, and this is why the English invaded Egypt. It was in 2002. It's still, by the way, it's still live on YouTube. You can find it, A Night Without a Horse. One of my favorite TV shows. That came into my mind when I saw the Star of David. Also, all the curricula in Saudi Arabia about Jews and about Israel came into being when I saw this Star of David. I freaked out. I said, how could... First of all, I felt the school was very disrespectful. And I wrote an email to the school. I want to shock you. I still have the email. I still have the email, and I haven't published it yet. I will publish it, inshallah, in my upcoming book, inshallah. The email dates to July 2010. It was a very polite email. You know what I said to the school? Dear, by the way, the name of the school I always say, it's not a secret, it's called Accord School in Paris. Dear Accord School, I don't feel comfortable being with a Jewish family. I would like to ask for a transfer. And I wrote other nasty things that I don't want to mention now. But you will see it when the email comes to published. I think that was a very shocking request to the school. First of all, France is a very secular country. So in the questionnaire they gave me for the family, they never mentioned the religion. They never mentioned anything. They just mentioned, like, you want a family with a single room, single bathroom, shared bathroom. They would never... And I felt they would put me with a Tunisian, Moroccan, Algerian family from someone who's coming from Saudi Arabia. They would put him with a Muslim family. But a Jewish family, that was like astonishing. And the school said, okay, we'll take a couple of days to find you a replacement. I think that was the most rude response that they ever, or request that they ever received. The family was a Tunisian Yemeni family. They made a very nice Jewish trick. You know what is the finest Jewish tricks that Jews always do? Food. So I fell into the trap of this family, and they are, because of their origin, they offered me on a Saturday jahnoun, which is like a bread, a very, very delicious bread with butter. And it was like, you know what, I'm going to give them a chance to see how this family is all about. But no, the real reason why I stayed with the family, because I had intellectual talks with the mother about Jews, about Judaism. So I stayed for about a week or two. And then when the school came back to me, like, we can get you another family, I said, no, I just want to stay. You know why I decided to stay? Because I had an inner battle. I had an inner battle between what I was taught in school in Saudi and what I'm seeing with my own eyes. How can you make blessings before you eat? You Jews are infidels. By the way, so many people till today think so. Why do you make blessings? Infidels. Jews are infidels. And not only that, but how can you also no images, nothing? You're not polytheists. You don't worship other. So many Muslims believe that Jews are polytheists, or they have partners alongside God, and other things as well. I was very astonished when I got to know from two Shabbat dinners. I learned a lot, but the greatest thing about this mother was she was very intellectual because she's originally from the Middle East. So we had discussions about religion, culture, and I remember one thing she asked me, "Hey, why do we hate Jews?" I said, "Because we were ordered to hate Jews." Of course, it's a command. It's a commandment in the classical interpretation of so many verses in the Quran. You have to hate Jews and Christians for the sake of Allah. And I'm a very faithful Muslim, and so the enmity is eternal, she said. I said, yes, the enmity is eternal. We should hate Jews forever. She said, you know what the Torah says about the Egyptians who oppressed the children of Israel? I said, yeah, we have something similar in the Quran, that God will punish those. And she said, yes, the Torah spoke so violently against those Egyptians that God will stretch his hand and he will smite Egypt and he will kill the firstborns and he will do this for the sake of Pharaoh to let his people go. The moment the children of Israel left Egypt, you know what was the commandment from God to the children of Israel? He said to them, do not abhor an Egyptian, because you were foreigners in their lands. So the enmity is not eternal. And God doesn't want you to hate for good. Yes, enmity between peoples and between religions and between different nations can happen. We are humans, but it's not eternal. And that was the first bulb that I felt its light. And I said to myself, this sounds like my God. But you have to know, while I was having these kind of conversations, there was a good Loay and a bad Loay. You know, like the cartoons, an angel and a devil. No, she's lying to you. She's a Jew. Don't trust the Jews. They are the enemies of God. They are the... Well, what she's saying is making sense. No, she's lying to you. Yeah, I have to know. Zionists, the Jews are... But why not to listen to her? You should never trust Jews. We were taught this. We should never greet them. I was having this inner conflict, but because, I'll be very honest, because I was so sincere in searching for God, I wanted to have more and more conversations. And I was missing the main point. I was missing the main point why I was in France, to learn French. I ended up learning Judaism and Hebrew. The worst exchange program, but of course I speak French, but I'm just saying that. But the main focus was to learn French, but of course I learned a lot about Judaism. And I want to tell you that after France 2010, I went to Saudi Arabia to start my media career. And it was a very successful career. 2011, Rachel, before I left France, she said, Loay, I want you to do something. I want you to do Tikkun Olam. I want you to heal the world. You know that this commandment was, Michael Jackson was influenced by it and he made a song, Heal the World, Make It a Better Place. I don't know if she's right or wrong, but there's a song for Michael Jackson that says, Heal the world and make it a better place. I don't know if he was influenced by this. We need to double check that with Rachel. But anyway, and when I went to Saudi 2000, after this experience, I really started to, it wasn't an overnight change, but I started to learn more, dig more, invest in my self-education about Judaism. Because before 2010, I knew a lot about Jews, but not from the source, from the adversaries, from that Egyptian TV show, from the Saudi curricula, from all the hate that we were indoctrinated with. By the way, Saudi Arabia now moved to a very different space when it comes to education. Education, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia brought great and positive changes to the country, including the curricula. Now the curricula in Saudi, Jews are our cousins, Jews are the people of the book, where the Prophet had so many Jewish neighbors, Jews are we have so many commonalities with the Jewish people. And I looked at the curricula in 2022, like 3 years ago, and I said to myself, this is not what I was taught in late 90s. This is not what I was taught about Jews. But now, it's better. But I'm just telling you. So I had this kind of a moment where I wanted to learn more. My mom, God bless her, told me, when I told her about this experience, she said, Loay, you are under a sudden fascination with this Jewish family. Sudden fascination. It will fade away in 2 months. 15 years. And counting. You know why? Because it touched my heart with lots of curiosity. And I wanted to learn more. And I learned more about Judaism from the source, and I fell in love with it. And I reconciled my faith. By the way, Rachel was not a proselytizing Jew, because Judaism is not a proselytizing religion. Do not leave your faith. She never told me, Jews, we have to make you leave Islam. This is what we were told. Jews are so eager to make you leave your faith. She said, no, just don't hate. I just want you, I see it in you that you are a good person. I don't want you to hate. And I reconciled my faith I'm still a Muslim, a proud Muslim, and a proud Arab, but I just expunged one thing, hate. And I said to myself, all the interpretations by the scholars of the 7th century are not valid, and I will not go by them. It needs lots of courage to say this in the Arab world, by the way. It needs lots of courage to say this. And I found the commonalities between Arabs and Muslims, Muslims and Jews, astonishing. 1.8 billion we are. And we are named after Jewish prophets, kings, and heroes, and we don't make the connection. You have so many Muslims who hate Jews, who consider the word Yahudi or Ibn al-Yahudi, a son of a Jew, as an insult, while they are named after Isa or Jesus, who was a son of a Jew. A Jew, a son of a Jew. The word son of a Jew in the Arab world is like an insult. He's a son of a Jew. What's your name, my dear friend? Isa. You're named after the most famous son of a Jewish woman that we know in history, who was also Jewish. And then when you delve more into the words of Jesus himself, you'll be astonished. I always say to my non-Jewish friends, if you read the words of Jesus in the Bible, in the Gospels, you would think that Jesus would be a modern-day Likudi, right-wing Israeli, because his words are astonishing. He called the land Israel. In the Gospel of Matthew, when he warned his disciples, verily I say to you, you will not go through all the towns of Israel until the Son of Man comes back. He wore tzitzit. He was born in Bethlehem, Judea, raised between Capernaum and Nazareth. When he was praising his disciples, you know what he called them? You know when we want to praise someone now and you say, you're the man. You're the man in Jesus' words where you are a true Israeli. Like he said to Nathanael, you are a true Israeli, in you there is no deceit. But I hate Israel and I hate anything relates to Israel, my dear friend, and I'm a Muslim, my name is Isa. Doesn't make sense. Dots are not connected. Bridges are gapped. And we need to connect the dots. This is what I did. It's because of this experience. I started to learn more, to read more, and I started my media career in Saudi. This is very important for you to know. And many people who know me before I started to speak about Israel, they know my full story. 2011, I started my media career in teaching people languages. Languages, not only English, but also ancient languages, because I read and write Egyptian hieroglyphs. I read and write Arabic Nabatean, which is it's an oldest writing system that the Arabs used to write in Arabia. I was so famous. Everyone loved Loay in Saudi Arabia. One of the pictures that I pinned in my Instagram photo, when I received the best educational idea in Saudi Arabia 2013. You can see me, a young Loay. At that time I had hair. I lost my hair, just for you to know. I was shaking hands with the Minister of Education. I received 150,000 riyals, which is like $35,000. And it was the best educational idea and it was called the concept of edutainment, learning through entertainment. I received 5 national awards in Saudi Arabia. Everyone loved Loay. Loay, he is the languages and history buff that we should listen to. And then I translated the speeches of the Saudi kings from King Abdul Aziz, may his memory be a blessing, to King Salman in English. And I was awarded by the Prince of Mecca. And I have the videos. All of these videos can be found on my Instagram. So you have to follow me on my Instagram. Like and share and comment. So I was awarded in 2017. And then I did a big show for Dubai before Common Era with the Dubai Media Office, 2019. And I did the best tourism show in Saudi Arabia that's called Laffat al-Mamlaka, around the kingdom. And I was honored in late 2019. So everyone loved Loay. You're the history buff, you're the language buff, you're so famous, we love you. The moment I started to talk about Israel, things changed. And by the way, when I hear people say, how much the Israelis are paying you, I say to them, by the way, the Saudis can pay triple of that if it was how much they're paying you. But I'm not doing this for how much the Mossad is paying you. $7,000 per post, come on. I receive $1 million. I'm just kidding, of course. But I'm just saying that the moment I started to speak about Israel, things changed. And I realized that there was a price to pay. When I decided to, when I first talked about Israel was after President Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem. You remember that? When that happened, I wrote a tweet at that time. It went viral in the Arab world, especially by Al Jazeera. And everyone was saying, so you wanted us to trust you as the history buff, this is a Zionist plot. The Zionists are using this guy now so that we trust him, and you know what I said in that tweet? I said Jerusalem is not the capital of Israel because President Donald J. Trump said so. It is the capital of the Kingdom of Israel because the character that we honor, revere, and respect and name our children after in Islam did so 3,000 years ago, King David. Let me tell you the story. And I was just writing a tweet. It was a very, very informative tweet about King David, about the Jebusites, about who lived 3,000 years ago, why David chose Jerusalem as the capital after it was Hebron or Shechem. What is the political significance of that? What archaeological evidence that proves that David existed, like Tel Dan and other tablets or stelas? Very, very, very informative perspective. But Al Jazeera took that is a Zionist plot. This is how Zionism gets in. And this is how the Zionists want to change. And this is, Loay fooled us for 7 years from 2011 to make us believe that he is the history and languages buff to pass this Zionist agenda. Crazy, I know. The first price I paid was when Saudi companies and media companies started to fade away. We love you, you're good, everyone, but I'm sorry, Loay, if we associate ourselves with you, you are the face of you know what they call me? The Arab normalizers. You know what normalizers means? It's an accusation that you are normalizing relations with Israel. It's an honor. It's an honor to be called a normalizer. But the price was bearable. It's okay. Why not? I go to Saudi. I still visit my mom and my family. But the greatest price was in 2023 when October 7 happened. When October 7 happened, I woke up that morning and I said, will you speak up? Because I don't want to shock you. That morning, most of the Arab world was celebrating October 7. I don't want to shock you. Many were celebrating October 7. Many saw it, the end is nigh, Israel is finished. To speak up on social media on that day in favor of Israel, you're doomed. But I asked myself a question, did you really change? Or was it just like a sudden fascination? I said to myself, I really changed. I swallowed the radical ideology of Islamists and I expunged it. But not that I expunged it with emotions. I expunged it with knowledge, with facts, with truths. I have this knowledge that I can counter back their arguments. I never hesitated. I spoke up from day one in support of Israel's right to defend itself, against the atrocities, the real genocide of Hamas, because Hamas really wanted to kill as many Jews as possible on that day. It was never about the land. It was never about the land. It was never about the two-state solution. It was never about living side by side with Israel. It was about killing Jews to go to heaven. Those who tell you otherwise, they don't know their ideology. Ask someone who knows it very well. Ask someone who defeated that ideology. But I knew that there was a heavier price to pay. Of course, now no one in the Arab world wants to work with you. But God closes windows, opens lots of doors. And I received lots of opportunities. I didn't plan this. I just said, you know what? I trust God and I do the right thing. And look at me now. I'm in Estonia speaking. 2 weeks ago, I was in The Hague. A month ago, I was in South Africa, Cape Town and Johannesburg. I toured America, and now I'm going to Brussels tomorrow because the day after tomorrow, I'm going to address the European Parliament about anti-Semitism fight as a Muslim. I went to Canada, to different places, I went to Italy to speak. I never saw that coming. Yes, in the Arab world, you're a castaway after you're the best educational idea in Saudi, awarded by many people. Now we don't claim you. It's okay. I don't take it personal. You know why? Because I've been in their shoes. I know how they think. I used to think the same way. And I know that one day, inshallah, they will learn the truth and they will come to their senses. It's not about supporting Israel because Mossad or emotional. No, it's because I know the history of Israel. I defend Israel as part, and by the way, I say it plainly. I said it to prime ministers in the Arab world. I said it to head of governments. The real reason I support Israel is because I believe Israel biblically existed and Jews belong to this region, and it's part of my moral integrity to say, as a Muslim who believes and honors and reveres the prophets, kings, and judges of God, that they lived in that region. They call the land Israel, and it's the future of the Middle East for Jews, Muslims, and Arabs and Israelis to live side by side and coexist. And this message is not against the Palestinian people. I have many Palestinian friends, amazing people. They are very well educated. The Palestinian people are not the problem. The problem is Hamas and the radical Islamists. And when I hear from people in Europe who try to educate me about the Palestinian people, I say to them, stop it. You're not from the region. You don't understand the region as someone from there. So please, if you really support the Palestinian people, stand against those who kidnap their cause. Stand against those who damage their cause. Stand against those who have an ideology of great hate that you don't know anything about. Have you read Hamas Charter? I said it to people in Providence, to the Gen Zs, Americans, who were protesting against my speech. I said, have you read the Hamas? Yeah, I have read 2 charters, the watered down one in 2017 and the original one in 1987. Excuse me, sir, you read it in which language? In English, you haven't read it. If you haven't read it in Arabic, you haven't read it. You have to understand the openly evasive phrases that they put in their charter in order to really understand their charter. But what makes you understand their charter? Because I was a former radical. And then there's a moment of silence. Yeah, I know. I understand them very well because I swallowed their ideology and I expunged it or expunged it. Expunged it, better way to say it. So this is why, this is the long answer to the question, why should we trust you? Why should we listen to you? Because I defeated that ideology. And when I tell you that Israel in the past 2 years did not fight a war on its behalf alone, it fought a war on behalf of humanity. I know when people hear this, though, hey, but look what happened. Look at the genocide. Look at the people dying. Let's first speak frankly. Wars are ugly. Of course, it's an ugly war. Of course, no one is happy with what was happening in Gaza. Of course, we show empathy to the innocents who were killed. No one, how pro-Israeli they are, and I met many, would never be happy with seeing children dying or innocents dying in Gaza. No one is happy with that. But let's just remember one thing. A genocide is a deliberate act of wiping out a nation. Israel can do this, but it doesn't. Hamas wants to do it, but it can't. That's the difference. And how could Israel be doing a genocide and dropping leaflets on masses and populations, warning them to evacuate? What kind of army is doing a genocide would do this? What kind of army would do a genocide and then you have people with the perfect angle to film a building that was just collapsing because they received a call 30 minutes ago to evacuate? Nevertheless, wars are ugly. It was an ugly war, but it was a war that Israel didn't ask for, didn't want, and didn't start. But of course, the innocents who died for that, we really grieve and show lots of empathy with them, because this is what Hamas really wanted to do. Hamas wanted to isolate Israel. By the way, the real reason for October 7, and I always say, take it from those who know, the real reason for October 7 to happen was never about the two-state or liberation or Al-Aqsa. Never. It was for a single reason: to torpedo the upcoming Saudi-Israeli normalization. That is the real reason. It was never about the two-state. It was never about Al-Aqsa. And now the greatest demand for Hamas is not the same demands that they put on October 8th. The demands now: please take your forces back to this line, to Netzarim corridor, to this corridor, to that corridor. It was never about their people. Suicidal, maniac, radical, extremists that you need to fight their ideology and to fight their existence. This is why I said it. Israel is fighting on behalf of humanity, because those radicals are coming to Europe. Israel is the barrier. But they are coming to Europe and they are misusing the liberal freedom that many countries are giving them. They are misusing the liberal freedom that many Western countries are giving them, and they don't know that they are next. How many pro-Hamas marches, and be honest with yourselves, have you seen in Europe or in America with the same national flag of that country in that march? How many? I haven't seen. But I have been to pro-Israeli marches in the UK, in Rome, in different places in Europe and in America. They honor the country that they are in. They love America. They love the UK. They love the countries that they're staying in. But the pro-Hamas supporters, they say death to America in America. Then why are you there, my dear friend? May I ask? I asked many people, by the way, in a respectful dialogue, why are you in that country if you hate it so much? Their indirect answer is the benefits. Yes, but we hate the country because it's doing this and that. You're not grateful for the countries that gave you opportunities that you would dream of in your in your country of origin. And unfortunately, not many people in Europe understand that. So Israel was in a war on behalf, and I believe Israel will receive a stand ovation from humanity after this war, when everyone sees how Israel truly defended humanity in that war. So when I say to you that I know exactly their ideology, I'm telling you that Israel was in a war and in a victory, not only for its people, but for even the Palestinian Gazans who lived in that strip, against their will and against the will of Hamas. So I want to say that my approach in social media is very simple. My approach in social media to advocate for peace is like just like what I explained to you moments ago. Facts, knowledge, truth, bridging gaps between Muslims and Jews, stressing that the commonalities that we have are far more than the differences that we have, and also defending the legitimacy of Israel as a Muslim. I know it's mind-boggling. Defending the legitimacy of Israel as a Muslim? Yeah, of course. I defend the legitimacy of Israel because I believe Israel is there because it has always been there. But what kind of, oh, come on, don't tell me that come on, hey, come on, let's be serious, okay? Don't tell me you're defending Israel just because of the Bible. Tell me some proofs. I want some proofs, one of my Jordanian friends. Show me some proofs that Israel existed. My grandmother is older than Israel. I said, okay, let's go to the Jordanian Museum. The Jordanian Museum in Amman has a stela called Mesha stela. You know who Mesha was? He was a king of Moab, the Moabites. And Mesha was bragging in that stela that he is the king of Mesha, the king of Moab, who defeated some nations. One of the nations he defeated, and one of the kings he defeated. That's archaeology, no Bible. King Umri, the king of Israel. My friend, he's a lovely person, by the way. Yeah, many of them are good people, but confused. He said, you see, your friends were defeated. I said, Umar, that's not the point. It's not the point that they were defeated or they won. They existed. King Umri, king of Israel. I don't know if your grandmother is older than Umri. So it is very important. But of course, you know, when they are cornered, like my good friend, I love him so much. He's a good friend, I know, but he's arguing with, he's saying, yeah, but those Israelis are not the Ashkenazi Israelis now today who comes from. I love it. I said, okay, but so your grandmother is not older than Umri. Yeah, but this is different Israel. But you said it didn't exist. No, the different context. I believe many of them are good people, honestly. I say it because I have so many friends who disagree with my views. But they are confused because they remind me of the teenager Loay. So there are so many artifacts and there are so many archaeological proofs that only if you're blind, you would say that Israel did not exist or the Jewish presence was not there. And by the way, hold on a second. The word Jew, where does it come from? Judea. Yeah, that's the shortest answer. But there's a detailed answer that is very important. It was never called the land of Israel before the 13th century BCE. Never called. It was called the land of Canaan. And the west side of that land, I wish I had a map, it was called the coastline of the Philistines. The Philistines had 5 strongholds: Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gaza, Gat, and Akron. Who are the Philistines? They are called the people of the sea, le peuple de la mer. They came from Crete, and they inhabited this kind of this western side of the coastline of Canaan. So it was called the land of Canaan and the coastline of the Philistines. But there is a character called Joshua bin Nun. He entered the land, partitioned it after the 12 sons of Jacob. And that portion of the land that was called Judah, when the United Kingdom of Israel was divided, many of the Israelites were living in that part of the land. Before 586, the ancestors of the Jews were never called Jews. They were called Israelites. In the book of Jonah, Yonah, a prophet, and in his book, you'll find that when the sailors were asking him, who are you? What are you? What are you doing this? He said, Ivri Anochi, I'm only a Hebrew. I'm just a Hebrew or an Israelite. What happened after 586? The Babylonians, and that's archaeologically proven, historically proven, they came into that region and they captivated the Israelites or the Hebrews from that portion of the land. When they took them back to Iraq, they asked them, where you guys are from? They said, we are from Judea. We are the Jews. If the ancestors of the Jewish people were taken from the portion of the land that was called Dan, they would now be called the Danites, or the Ephraimites, or the Benjaminites. But they are called the Jews for this reason. They are called the Jews because they come from Judah, or Judea, the fourth son of Jacob, whose that portion of the land was named after. This is why the Jews of today still call this portion of the land Yehudah. Of course, and Samaria, the Shimron. They don't call it the West Bank, which is the West Bank. It's a modern naming, the West Bank of the West Bank to the Jordan River. These facts might be very known to many of you, or to people in the West, or to the educated, but not to the Arabs. To the Arabs, it's like, no, listen, Habibi, this is all, Zionism is a European colonialist white project that was created in Europe. The Jews of today have nothing to do with the children of Israel. Really, same language, same festivals, same celebrations, same sets of belief. So you want to tell me that ancient Jews celebrated Hanukkah? No, hold on. I'm going to tell you a prophet that we accept in Islam celebrated Hanukkah, Jesus. In the Gospel of John, John 10, it says that Jesus ascended to Jerusalem in the days of winter to join the festival of dedication. What is the festival of dedication? The dedication of the temple, Hanukkah. And it's the most Zionist festival in the Jewish calendar because it was not a religious dedication. It was not only a religious festival. Hanukkah is the most political holiday and festival in the Jewish calendar. Because what is Hanukkah? When Alexander the Great died, his generals ruled. They ruled Egypt, you have the Ptolemies, and they ruled Levant, you have the Seleucids. One of the generals of the Seleucids, Antiochus Epiphanes, he wanted to suppress the Jews, and a Jewish revolt happened against him. It was called the revolt of the Maccabees or the Hasmoneans. Judah, Mattatyahu, and this family won sovereignty over the land. And because he wanted to light the candles of the menorah with an oil that was sufficient for one day but lasted for 8 nights, the Jewish people till today celebrate Hanukkah, including Jesus. I'm a Muslim. My name is Isa. There's nothing called Hanukkah. So, my approach in social media is to lay down these facts in showing Muslims how we and Jews are very close. The legitimacy of Israel cannot be questioned. The legitimacy of Israel from a Muslim, a true Muslim should never question the legitimacy of Israel. And we can talk about other solutions as well, but we have to put facts as they are. I want to conclude by saying that I am very optimistic for the future of the Middle East, especially when you have a strong American president like Donald J. Trump. President Trump, in his first term, brought the greatest breakthrough in American foreign diplomacy. The greatest breakthrough in American foreign diplomacy in the Middle East was the Abraham Accords. Peace between UAE, 4 Arab states and Israel, UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, Sudan, on and off. But it was the greatest achievement because it was people to people. I have a Saudi cousin, his name is Fahad, recorded a video and I put it on my Instagram. He said, Loay, because of your videos, I'm going this weekend to Dubai to have a Shabbat dinner with a Jewish Israeli family. That was after the war, by the way. And I want to record that. I said, Fahad, don't record it, please. No, it's okay. I talked to my family and I said, you don't have to. I said, I want to do it. He did it and he sent me the video and I put it on my Instagram. And many Fahads, many Loays, many people are willing to join this movement. We are a growing minority. But many minorities became the majority. The Maccabees were a minority. Among the majority at that time were not the Maccabees, were the Yahudim Mityavinim, the Greek Jews. Yeah, let's blend with them. Let's blend with it. Let's leave our faith behind. Let's not care about this. Let's submit to the Hellenization by the Seleucids. By the way, fact check this. You know that the Maccabees had peace with the kingdom of Arabia at that time? The Nabateans. The Nabateans and the king of the Nabateans, Aretas, or in Arabic, Al Harith, established peace with the Maccabees or the Hasmonean family. Not only that, he supplied arms to the Maccabees in the revolt against the Seleucids. Were we taught this in schools? No. Were we told this? Were we ever told anything about the Nabateans in Petra and Al-Ula or Hegara? Were we told anything about the political alliances they made with the Jewish state at that time? No. But I want you to read more about, because Josephus wrote about that, Josephus, and also Pliny. They wrote about that. It's not the Bible, because it's the Bible. It's not the Bible. I am very optimistic that this will grow, the Abraham Accords and peace, the permanent peace in the Middle East. But we need to have a strong America, and we have a strong America. And we have a strong America that can help us in doing that. I believe the Palestinian people have the right to live in dignity side by side with Israel. I don't personally believe that the Palestinian state is a priority now. The priority should be finding a Palestinian leadership that accepts to live side by side with Israel, that accepts to recognize Israel as a Jewish state, that stops teaching its children to hate. If you have these conditions in a leadership, in a sincere leadership, I tell my friends from the Arab world, the Israelis will march into the streets of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem demanding a Palestinian state. But these conditions are not met, especially after October 7. Many Israelis who came to me, by the way, because I was speaking about this before October 7. You are a Bibitzim, you are a Likudi, you are a Zionist. Israelis, you are a Zionist. That's Tzionist. After October 7, they became my supporters. They themselves became Zionists. Even the Smolanim, the leftists in Israel, are now becoming more and more right-wing. October 7 changed everything, by the way. But I know that deep down, they want to have peace with the Palestinians. But they don't see it. This is why the focus, when I'm asked everywhere, even the interview I was asked by the Estonian TV, the Palestinians, I said, please, I don't want to, I do takhlis, like to the point. I give to the point. I don't just sugarcoat or just, give some political statements. No, it's not a priority now. Gaza will be rebuilt, inshallah, and it should be a prelude to what a Palestinian state looks like. But let's not forget, this will not be the first chance that Gaza is given. This will be the second chance. The first chance was in 2005, the summer of 2005, when Israel decided to unilaterally withdraw from Gaza. Ariel Sharon. Let's give the Gazan. I know many Israelis who said we owned greenhouses, and we gave them back. Oh, not we gave them back, we left them behind. Greenhouses. They could have benefited from it. Not the Palestinians, we're talking about the Hamas, the Palestinian leadership. What did Hamas do? First thing, coup d'etat. A coup d'etat against Fatah, against the PA. Throwing people off the roofs. Massacring people. They went through democracy, and this is what they want to do in the West. Yeah, democracy is a ladder. We climb the ladder, we acclaim it. Thank you so much, ladder. We don't need you anymore. They want to do the same in Europe. So this is why it's very important for you to listen to the voices from the Middle East, to those who know. And I can claim that I am an expert when it comes to de-radicalization in the Middle East, and I need my voice and the voices of my likes to be heard, because we are the growing minority that put their heads above the parapet, and we are going to be the future of this region. I am very optimistic. The next 3 years, inshallah, will be flourishing, and I'm very hopeful that a permanent peace in the Middle East is possible, inshallah. Thank you so much. 3 p.m. sharp.
Amazing. So now we have time for questions and answers. I already see one hand, so I will give a microphone there, and I already saw the second hand also.
And I'm hearing good news that inshallah the hostages will be released tonight. And let's just pray, because I personally believe that the Israeli government has no intention to resume the war as soon as the hostages are received. And wars, because every time, I want to say one thing, every time I speak to my Arab friends, who are, I always say this, they are good people, even those who don't like Israel, but deep down I know they are good people and they are emotionally driven, disturbed. When I talk to them about, okay, but listen, there are good chances of having peace with, look, the war, every time the war. So let the war end, the bloodshed stop. Abraham wants to look down to his children, seeing them working together rather than fighting each other. Right? This is what I believe. This is what I believe Abraham wanted. Abraham wanted this, to have peace, not to have permanent bloodshed. Sorry.
It's 2025. America's debt is over $37 trillion, and the dollar just had its worst crash since 1973. That puts your savings and your family's future at risk. That's why we trust Alpha Omega Gold, a company that stands unapologetically with Israel and supports Stand Tall Israel. Visit ao.gold/stand to claim your free precious metals wayfinder guide, or call 1-855-426-4653 today. Protect your future before it's too late.